At this moment, there was silence in the entire valley, and no one made a sound. Even Jason stopped fighting with Dominic and stared blankly at this scene, unable to help but tremble in his heart. The previous deaths of Fry and the others, although shocking, did not make Jason and the others lose their composure. However, at this moment, Gates, the group of 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Masters, and Jason were all shocked, and their whole bodies were shaking involuntarily. The shocking scene from before continued to echo in Jason's mind. Who is Jonathan? That is the venerable Qingtian Empire of the 4 major empires in the mainland, a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, a figure who stands at the top of the pyramid in the mainland. Even in the previous battle, he was attacked by Oldman at the beginning and suffered heavy injuries. But no matter what, he is still a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, a mythical existence in the entire continent, but spread his wings. The update group updates the fastest. It was just such a myth. It was just like this before. It was turned into ashes by the palm of this giant black palm, and no bones were left. Such a shocking scene made Jason and the others couldn't help but tremble in their hearts. Will this scene also be his ending? Everyone couldn't help but tremble in their hearts and could no longer control their emotions. In the valley, while Gates and the others were extremely frightened, Jia Luo and others showed expressions of joy on their faces. Master Tower Master, my subordinates are guilty and have failed to complete Master Tower Master's mission. Please punish Master Tower Master. Deputy Tower Master Takara, the spiritual master, immediately faced the sky above the valley. The black figure bowed and saluted, uttering self-blame. Please punish me, Lord Tower Master. The spiritual master, the great elder Tabor Jocasta, the second elder Radamandes, the third elder Jude, the fourth elder Tim and others all saluted respectfully with pious expressions. Master Tower Master, you are hearing the name of the black figure addressed by Jia Luo, Deputy Tower Master, Mutzi, and others in the valley were stunned and their eyes widened. Looking at the black figure, his eyes were filled with disbelief. On this continent, there is only one person who can be called the Deputy Master of the Spiritual Master, Takara. That is the Master of the Spiritual Master Tower, who is known as the most powerful person in the mainland, the 9th-level Peak Emperor, Spiritual Master, and the Master of the Atkinson Tower. In the sky above the valley, the black figure stood proudly in the sky, looking coldly at Gates and the others. He just stood there quietly, and the void was constantly trembling, revealing the slightest cracks in the space, giving people an unspeakable shock. You guys, don't leave today. Please stay with me. The tall, majestic figure looked at everyone present indifferently, and made a majestic, cold voice. UGA Gates and everyone else looked at the tall figure with horror on their faces, and their eyes were full of horror. Even if Jason and the others started at the 6th level, the Wings update team would update the fastest. Being besieged by the soul-destroying Holy Formation, Jonathan was suddenly attacked by Oldman and others, and even when Lord Cornelius betrayed him, Gates and the others had never imagined that they would be so shaken now. In the previous situation, although it was a crisis, with the strength of their 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, there was a glimmer of hope. However, when Atkinson appeared, Gates and other leaders of the remaining 4 major forces all fought in their hearts. Full of dead ashes. Ah! At this moment, Gates suddenly roared, looking sharply at Jason and the others behind him. Jason, Lanuigusan, you run away quickly and escape into the trial restricted area. Trial restricted area? Yes, there is also a trial restricted area. Jason and the others looked at each other, looking at the colorful aurora restricted area flashing not far behind them. Each of them looked like a drowning man grabbing a life-saving straw, with a look in his eyes. A glimmer of life. Because the bloody trial is about to begin, Gates and the others have opened the forbidden area leading to the 7-star sea forbidden area before. However, the forbidden area is located in the 7-star sea, one of the 7 forbidden areas in the mainland. Deep in the core, there is only one exit that is now open. Once Jason and the others pass through the forbidden area and enter the forbidden area, they will be trapped in the forbidden area. As long as the people in the Spirit Master Tower guard the forbidden exit, Jason and the others will be completely trapped. Therefore, Gates let them escape in the first place. At that time, no one thought about escaping into the forbidden area, but now, after the appearance of Atkinson Tower Master, the forbidden area not far behind them has become their only way to survive. Jason, hearing the roar of Deputy Tower Master Gates, the tall figure's eyes suddenly fell on Jason in the crowd. Are you Jason, the core disciple of the Medicine God Tower who broke through to the 29th floor in the Medicine God Tower? A loud voice buzzed in Jason's mind. Atkinson looked at Jason from a distance and raised his own right hand, then, just die. After the words fell, Atkinson took action brazenly. Boom! A huge space hole directly exploded in the void. Countless Spirit 20 elements condensed in the void, and then formed a huge black palm, which was aimed at Jason's location and struck hard. Jason, get out of the way! Gates' Deputy Tower Master's eyes widened and he roared. His whole body turned into a bolt of lightning and flew towards Atkinson's huge black palm. During the flyby, another bottle of elixir appeared in Gates' right hand. This bottle of elixir was completely black. As soon as it appeared, it exuded an amazing pressure. Rose swallowed it in one gulp. Boom! After taking this bottle of black elixir, Gates' Deputy Tower Master's whole figure seemed to be on fire, and his body seemed to have broken through some shackles. The aura revealed suddenly strengthened, and the flying speed it also surged in an instant, and finally stood in front of Jason before the giant black palm fell. Open it for me, the Wings Update team updates the fastest. Facing the powerful attack released by Atkinson, Gates' Deputy Tower Master roared, and his eyes continued to shoot out with divine light. The long sword in his middle was like a sword that lifted up the sky, piercing the black giant. Palm. It's ridiculous. Atkinson said indifferently, and his huge black palm directly collided with the long sword in the hand of Gates' Deputy Tower Master. Pung! The giant black palm trembled silently, and the long sword in Gates' Deputy Tower Master made a harsh trembling sound, and then suddenly exploded, turning into powder all over the sky. Pfft! Gates' Deputy Tower Master spurted blood from his mouth and retreated violently in the sky. Huh, none of you can escape today. The Master of Atkinson Tower snorted coldly, flipped his palm again, aimed at Jason and the others, and slapped them hard. The giant black palm fell. With this palm, Jason, including a large group of disciples around Jason, would fall. Christian, Douglas, Raina, what are you waiting for? If you wait any longer, the disciples of our major forces will all die here. Seeing this scene, Deputy Tower Master Gates spat out blood from his mouth, roaring in the void. There seemed to be a black flame burning on his body. Although he was shot by Atkinson and was seriously injured, the fluctuations of spiritual power revealed from his body were still rising. The black elixir that Gates took earlier was an elixir that could instantly release the potential in the body of a spiritual master. It could increase Gates' strength to the extreme in a short period of time, but once the potion is exhausted, those who take it may be seriously injured, or may die in severe cases. Hearing Gates roar, in the sky, Christian, the Deputy City Lord of Dawn City, Douglas, the Deputy City Lord of Adventure City, and Renner, the Lord of the Salem Empire, couldn't help but look at each other, with a trace of determination in their eyes. Boom! 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 3 monstrous auras shot up from the 3 of them. Christian's expression was completely peaceful. Her body suddenly released dazzling white light, and a tall, empty figure full of coercion slowly rose from behind her, overlooking the entire land. Douglas's entire body turned into a flame, and a flaming figure emerged behind him, staring at the Master of Atkinson Tower. Reiner was wrapped in an earth-yellow misty aura, lingering around him, evolving into various patterns. The sigh of the Goddess of Dawn. The roar of the God of Fire. The reincarnation of the earth, the vicissitudes of the sea. The three of them had pious faces and shouted loudly. They aimed at the master of Atkinson Tower and launched the most violent blow. They don't want this. The Wings update team updates the fastest. I'm going to die not far away, Deputy Tower Master Jiao Luo of the Spiritual Master Tower and others spoke with disbelief on their faces. From their strength, one can naturally see that the three Christians are attacking Lord Atkinson at the cost of their lives. Faced with the desperate blows from these three people, Atkinson had to withdraw his attack on Jason and others again, and stop the three people. Bang! 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 Three huge roars resounded in the sky, and the terrible spiritual power dispersed. Atkinson, who had always stood proudly in the sky and was always as plain as water, fought for his life against three ninth-level intermediate Holy Spirit Masters in the City of Dawn, the City of Adventure, and the Salem Empire. Under the blow, the figure finally swayed. The three Christians spurted blood directly from their mouths, their faces were as pale as paper, and they were crumbling in the sky. Jason, Lan Yuigusan, everyone, you guys, go quickly. On the other side, Gates, who had stabilized his body, slapped Jason and others with his palm, pushing them into the restrictions of the 7-star Sea Forbidden Land. Whoosh! 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 Jiao Luo and others all arrived. They wanted to stop Jason and others from entering the restricted area, but they were stopped by Gates. It's me who you have to deal with. Gates' eyes were sharp and he spoke coldly. Deputy Tower Master Gates. During the restriction, Lan Yuigusan and others shouted loudly, with tears in their eyes. Let's go, promise me, you must live and leave a route for our elixir tower. Guang Gates looked at Jason and the others entering the restricted area and warned him, but he himself was alone. With his strength, he resolutely blocked the attack of Jiao Luo and others, and was seriously injured, with blood flowing out all over his body. At the same time, the genius disciples of the other 6 forces also seized this rare opportunity and threw themselves into the restriction. Damn it, you are all going to die. Looking at this scene, the owner of Atkinson Tower let out an angry roar. In the sky, Master Atkinson, who was looking at the figures of Jason and others thrown into the colorful restrictions one after another, had always been calm and indifferent since they appeared, unable to be shocked at all. At this moment, he finally let out an angry roar. The final plan for this blood trial, killing Gates and the others, the backbone of the major forces on the continent, is just a minor part of the plan. What is really important is to kill Jason and the others. The hope for the future of this large group of major forces. But now, due to the desperate efforts of Gai Ying and others, many genius disciples from major forces such as Jason and others have escaped into the trial restricted area. This makes the master of Atkinson Tower not angry. Under his roar, the void continued to shatter like glass. Waves of terrifying aura emerged from Atkinson Tower Master's body. The terrifying pressure dispersed from his body and he rushed forward. Although Jason and the others entered the restricted area where the colorful aurora was located, their figures had not disappeared. The master of Atkinson Tower instantly arrived in front of the restricted area with a stern expression on his face. His big hand was aimed at where Jason and the others were, and he grabbed them fiercely. Go. Boom. 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 Atkinson Tower Master's big hand exudes Miming's gray light, and there are mysterious laws flowing, as if it has become the only one in the entire world. Wherever he goes, the void continues. The broken pieces flew towards the colorful restrictions. Whoops! At this moment, a piercing and vast spiritual light lit up between the sky and the earth. Not far away, the master of Gitesco Tower, who was fighting with the master of Jiao Luohun Tower and others, saw the crisis here and did not hesitate. Hesitantly came to the rescue. You don't overestimate your capabilities. Faced with Gates's blockage, Atkinson Tower Master's angry eyes bloomed with divine light, his expression was cold, and he spoke coldly, and slapped Gates directly with his big hand. Bang! Even though Gates desperately tried his best, he still had no resistance in front of the Atkinson Tower Master. He was slapped away by a heavy palm, and the blood-covered robe on his body suddenly shattered, turned into fragments all over the sky. Atkinson Tower Master's big hand continued unabated, grabbing with 5 fingers, directly grabbing Jason and others in the colorful aurora. In the colorful aurora, Jason, Lanuigusan and others had no power to resist at all, and could only watch the Atkinson Tower Master's big hand landing. Just when Atkinson Tower Master's big hands and ears were about to catch everyone in the colorful aurora, there was a sudden buzz. A unique spiritual power rippled out from the restriction, and a transparent spiritual power film suddenly appeared in front of many disciples who entered the restriction of the colorful aurora. Facing the resistance of this transparent spiritual film, the giant hand of Atkinson Tower Master, who had been indestructible and unmatched before, moved forward in an instant. It stopped and could no longer move forward. In the colorful aurora, the bodies of Jason and others slowly dissipated and were being transported into the forbidden land of the Seven-Star Sea. Ah, damn it! A look of incomparable anger showed on Master Atkinson's face. This 7-color aurora restriction was not known to have been established by the Great Power in ancient times. Even if he is now the top person in the mainland, a 9th-level peak Holy Spirit Master, the strength is also impossible to break through. Atkinson Tower Master, who knew that he could not kill Jason and others, instantly cast his cold eyes on Gatesko Tower Master, not far away. "Gates, it's you who ruined my plan. Since you want to die so much, then I will help you and just die," Atkinson said angrily, and slapped Gates on the head with his palm. Ah! Under the angry attack of Atkinson Tower Master, Gates' faint Tower Master, who was already under siege by everyone and was seriously injured and unable to survive, let out a shrill scream from his mouth, and blood splattered all over his body, and then a pung. Gates's whole body suddenly exploded and turned into a rain of blood, floating in the air. Master of Gates' Dusk Tower, Jason and others who slowly disappeared in the colorful aurora shouted loudly, with tears in the corners of their eyes, and then the whole person completely disappeared into the restriction. Kill, kill, kill. Atkinson killed Gates with one blow, uttered 3 words of kill in his mouth, and then focused his eyes on the remaining dozens of disciples from major forces who had not had time to enter the colorful aurora restriction. Death bar. Atkinson slapped it down with a palm. Those disciples looked horrified and wanted to escape, but found that the entire void was imprisoned. No matter how hard they tried, they could not move at all. They could only look at the black giant palm. Landed directly on top of him. Pung! 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 Without any suspense, under the attack of Atkinson Tower Master, these dozens of disciples exploded directly and turned into clouds of blood mist, floating in the air. And you Atkinson's eyes fell on the 3 severely injured 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Masters such as Christian in the distance. At the next moment, Atkinson took action without hesitation. At the same time, Jiao Luo and others also attacked the faint leaders of the major forces, took action. For a moment, shrill screams resounded throughout the world, and roars of fright and rage were heard from everywhere. All the spiritual elements in the void went berserk, playing a desolate tune. Atkinson, Lord Danksitu, will definitely avenge me. The Lord of Glasgow, the city of adventure, roared angrily before he died. Kara, you have to die a good death. Cornelius, the master of Bispham Tower, will not let you go, a traitor. Elder Waterfield, who was also covered in blood, roared. Ah! You beasts, you are going to die. A series of shrill screams continued to resound in the sky, accompanied by deafening roars and explosions, which were extremely miserable. I don't know how long it took, but the whole valley finally calmed down. With the full efforts of the Atkinson Tower Master of the Spiritual Master Tower, Christian, the Lord of Brother from the City of Dawn, Lord Douglas from the City of Adventure, and Lord of Dusk from the City of Sai. Venerable Reina of the Luan Empire all fell ruthlessly. In addition, all the other leaders present except the Spirit Master Tower, Sin City, Kamikaze Empire, and Cairo Empire, as well as many who failed to enter the colorful aurora restriction. All the disciples have fallen. So far, in this blood trial, except for some leaders and disciples of the 4 major forces, the leaders of more than 10 forces, as well as all the disciples who failed to enter the colorful aurora restriction in time, all fell into the valley, and no one live mouth. In the valley, blood dyed the rock walls red, and broken limbs were scattered all over the ground. The blood kept flowing and gathered into small streams. A strong smell of blood floated over the valley, under the roar of the wind, spreading into the distance. This horrific scene gives people the feeling of hell on earth. Among the 4 major forces present, many disciples who participated in the trial saw this scene. Their faces turned pale, their stomachs shrank, and they almost vomited. Although they have extraordinary strength on the mainland and have killed countless enemies, it was the first time for them, who were born in peaceful times, to see a massacre-like scene like today, which gave them a sense of unspeakable spiritual impact. Jude, clean up this valley immediately. Over the valley, Atkinson issued an order to Jude, and then looked at Jiao Luo aside. Ji Luo, you will kill our casualties this time. Please sort out the personnel and the casualties of the other party, and then tell me, especially the group of disciples who entered the forbidden area of the 7-star sea, who are they? I want to know each person's name and strength in detail. Radamandes, you bring all the disciples of our 4 major forces back to 7-star city. As for the staff sent by other forces in 7-star city, I think you should know how to do it. Yes, Tower Master. Following Atkinson's instructions, Jiao Luo and others responded respectfully, and then quickly got busy. Lord Master of the Tower. After a short time, Jiao Luo quickly came to Atkinson and saluted respectfully. In this final plan, the number of casualties from our 4 major forces is as follows. 80 disciples died in total. 37 people, 4 of the 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master-level elders, were sacrificed. Among the opposing forces, all the leaders who came to die were killed. Among the 220 disciples, a total of 194 were killed. A total of 26 disciples escaped into the forbidden land of the 7-star sea. Here is the specific list. After saying that, Jiao Luo respectfully handed a list of names in his hand to Atkinson's hand, and at the same time, he retreated anxiously. Aside. Of the 80 disciples of our 4 major forces, 37 of them actually died? 7 of them were from our spiritual master tower, and 26 of the other party's people escaped into the forbidden land of the 7-star sea. Looking at his hands on the list, Atkinson suppressed his anger and said word by word, Jara, what is going on? Why is the spirit-destroying holy formation broken, huh? For 9th level low-level holy spirits, although the fall of the master was serious, Atkinson didn't feel much in his heart. After all, the opponent also had 5 9th level intermediate Holy Spirit Masters and more than 10 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Masters. However, the large number of disciples killed in battle made Atkinson, my heart was filled with anger. Originally, in Atkinson Tower Master's plan, because of the soul-destroying holy formation, none of the 80 core disciples on his side would be killed or injured, while the other party's 220 disciples would all perish. However, now, almost half of the 80 disciples on his side have died, and the other side has 26 disciples who have escaped into the 7-star sea forbidden area, and in the list that Atkinson handed over from Jiao Luo, these escape wells, they are all ranked quite high among the 5 major forces, the geniuses that the spiritual master tower really wants to kill. This makes the master of Atkinson Tower not angry. The final plan won this time was mainly to kill Jason and other core disciples of major forces. Now the most important part has not been completed, which naturally makes Atkinson extremely angry. Faced with the questioning from the master of Eshelson Tower, Jiao Luo couldn't help but tremble, and then he hurriedly lowered his head and said respectfully, Master of the Tower, I have asked some disciples before, based on the movements they heard in the formation. Look, this spirit-killing holy formation seems to have been broken by Jason from the spiritual medicine master tower. As for the method he used, my subordinates don't know. Jason, it's that Jason again. Atkinson Tower Master Lung Hum, looking down at the list in his hand, look at Jason, Lanuigusan, Cassinus, Edmes, Caswall, Damning. These are all important goals of this plan, but they fled into the forbidden area, one by one. What do you think we should do? Hearing the cold shout from Master Atkinson, Deputy Tower Master Jia Yao suddenly broke out in cold sweat on his forehead, and said, Tower Lord, it doesn't matter if guys like Jason escape into the forbidden land of the Seven-Star Sea. The forbidden land is only open for 1 month. Once 1 month passes, the restriction will be automatically closed. By then, they will be trapped in the 7 stars forever. There is absolutely no possibility of survival in the Forbidden Sea area. Jialua vowed. Is there no possibility of survival? Master Atkinson Tower snorted coldly. Although the forbidden area leading to this forbidden area is deep in the core of the 7-Star Sea, one of the 7 forbidden areas in the mainland, it is not impossible to survive. At that time, if someone walks out of the 7-Star Sea, then our plan will be ruined. So Atkinson Tower Master's eyes flashed, and a cold smile appeared on his face. Jiao Luo, you come right now. Let Jude, Tim and others lead the remaining Holy Spirit Masters from the Wind Empire, Cairo Empire and Sin City to pass through this restriction and enter the 7-Star Sea forbidden area, surround and kill Jason and others, and at the same time send people to guard the restricted exit. Luo, do they think that everything will be fine if they escape into the forbidden land of the 7-Star Sea? I want them to have no way to go to heaven and no way to enter the earth. Master Atkinson Tower ordered, his tone cold. Yes. Jialua hurriedly bowed, Ingnua said, and at the same time his face showed joy. The master of the tower is really good at planning, my subordinates will do it immediately. After that, Jialua left in a hurry. After a while, under the leadership of Jialua, the remaining 6 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Masters among the 10 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Masters from the 4 major forces who came this time all we have arrived before the colorful restriction. After we enter the forbidden area through the colorful aurora restriction, the location where everyone appears is random. Remember, the hunting time is 1 month. As long as we see any other forces in the forbidden area, there is no need to talk nonsense, all of them will be killed without mercy, do you understand? Jiao Luo ordered. Got it. All 6 people shouted loudly. Very good. Jialua nodded. In the forbidden area, if you encounter any problems, communicate through the spiritual communication order. Now, let's go. Immediately, under the leadership of Jialua, a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, plus the other 6 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Masters, a total of 7 people, all quickly walked into the 7-color aurora restriction. The colorful aurora restriction suddenly lit up, and at the same time, the figures of the 7 Jara people gradually became transparent and blurred. After a while, the 7 people had disappeared into the restriction. In the Cornelius Valley, after Jiao Luo and others left, the master of Atkinson Tower once again cast his eyes on the trader of the Medicine Master Tower, the master of Cornelius. You should know what to do next, don't worry, as long as you are loyal to my spiritual master tower. In the future, we will unify the continent and establish a supreme empire, and you will definitely be the founding hero of the empire. Yes, Lord Tower Master, I understand what to do. Please wait for the good news from me. Cornelius immediately showed a trace of excitement on his face and hurriedly spoke respectfully, and then his whole person instantly turned into a stream of light and flew away quickly toward the center of the continent. After Cornelius left, Master Atkinson Tower looked at the 3 masters of Sin City Pazaral, Lord Oldman of the Kamikaze Empire, and Lord Alfredson of the Cairo Empire. You 3, please go back and quickly report back to your respective city lords and holy lords. Tell them everything that happened here. At the same time, tell them that the final plan has been launched. The most important link below requires the 3 of them to take action together. Go. Master Atkinson Tower ordered with a stern expression. Yes. Pasolai, Oldman, and Alfredson looked at each other and agreed. Even if Atkinson didn't say anything, the three of them couldn't wait to report some of this to their respective families. City Lord and Holy Lord. As their words fell, the three people turned into three streams of light and disappeared into the sky in an instant. Burkacast, you will be responsible for guarding this valley. If there is any news or movement, come and notify me immediately. Atkinson said indifferently, took a step forward, and disappeared into the void. The Tower of the Spiritual Medicine Master, in front of a certain hall deep in the Spiritual Medicine Palace in the endless void of the Sky City. A priest with an astonishing aura was walking slowly from outside, then opened the door of the double hall and walked in respectfully. This priest's name is Houston, and he is a protector of the Spiritual Medicine Hall of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. He mainly cleans the Life Palace at the core of the Spiritual Medicine Palace. The name of the Palace of Life sounds extremely strange. In fact, it is just like its name. It contains the life cards of many important figures in the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. As one of the twin towers, the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower is one of the most peak powers in the mainland. It has many possessions in the outside world. There are a large number of powerful people, many of whom are the presidents of elixir master unions across the mainland. In order to understand their life safety, Bisfam made a life card for each of them. In case of any accident, they can directly pass, the life card can appear. Houston would come every morning and evening to see the life cards in good condition and then clean them. Today, as usual, Houston entered the Palace of Life and looked at the life tablets enshrined in the Palace of Life out of habit. However, when he looked at it, he was stunned deep in the inner hall of the Spiritual Medicine Palace. In the Elixir Garden, the master of Bisfam Tower was quietly sitting cross-legged in his yard, taking in everything around him. His eyes were closed tightly, as if he had fallen into trance. Suddenly, Bisfam's body shook violently, and at the same time his eyes suddenly opened, with a trace of doubt flashing in his eyes. What's going on? Why do I feel so frightened in my heart? Did something happen? Bisfam murmured in his mouth, frowning. Previously, he was feeling and practicing when he suddenly felt an incomparable feeling in his heart. Huge heart palpitations. If you are an ordinary person, I am afraid that you will not take it to heart at all, but if your strength reaches the level of the master of Bisfam Tower, any abnormality is a sign of some kind, and it will be reflected in some aspects, and cannot be easily ignored. Master Tower Master, Master Tower Master. Just when Bisfam was extremely doubtful, a burst of anxious shouting suddenly came from outside the Elixir Garden, and the tone was full of anxiety and shock. About. Bisfam's figure suddenly disappeared, and the next moment, he appeared outside the Elixir Garden. Houston, is that you? After seeing the figure exclaiming at the door, Bisfam suddenly thought of something, and his face suddenly changed. It's hard to say, a trace of gloom quietly floated in his mind. It rises like a wave to the sky. Jiangxi's life card is broken, and Waterfield's life card is also broken. In the Life Palace, Bisfam looked at the large number of life cards placed on the table in front of him, murmuring in his mouth, with a hint of emotion in his eyes. Incredible. His spiritual consciousness kept scanning the broken life card on the table, trying to find any mistakes in it to avoid what he thought in his heart, but he was disappointed. The way the life card was broken was different from the secret method records. Yes, exactly the same. These life cards were all made by Bisfam himself. As a special type of life spiritual master, he has unique skills. He naturally understands what the broken life cards represent. What's going on? Didn't Gates and the two of them lead the core disciples of our Spiritual Medicine Master Tower to participate in the genius trials of the major forces in the mainland? How could this happen? What happened? Could it be that this trial happened? What accident happened? Gates and the others also entered the forbidden area? Did they encounter danger? Or moreover, what happened to Jason and Lan Yuigusan? Bisfam felt as if there was a storm in his heart, and he couldn't wait to know the reason. At the same time, extremely concerned about the safety of Lan Yuigusan and Jason. Unfortunately, although Jason and Lanwigusen have high status, they do not have life cards in the Life Palace, which makes Bisfam, who is completely unaware of the situation, extremely worried. By the way, where is Cornelius? Suddenly, as if he thought of something, he immediately cast his gaze on the life card of Cornelius's master's well. I saw Cornelius' life card still intact on the table. This discovery made Bisfam feel slightly better. Cornelius was still alive, which meant that Jason and the others might still be alive, but it was only a possibility. No, I must figure out what happened in this genius trial. Bisfam made a cold sound, and then rushed out of the Life Palace in an instant. At the same time, on the main peak of the Holy Land, nearly 100 miles away from the imperial capital of the Salem Empire. In the dark stone cave, an extremely violent wave of spiritual power suddenly came out. Rena has fallen, his destiny has completely disappeared. What happened? What happened in the genius trial this day? Why do I feel that the continent's catastrophe has begun in the dark? The old and indifferent voice, with a deep shock, came from the cave. I feel that Caswall is in crisis now. The road ahead is dark, but there is still a glimmer of hope. Genius trial, so Jason from the Alchemist Tower should also be on the mainland. In the Forbidden Land in the northeast, right? Is this what I calculated? Where is the glimmer of hope and hope that Jason brought to Caswall? The catastrophe of the continent, what happened in the genius trial, said the old voice, with great shock. I stayed back in the cave for a long time. This is a lush mountain forest. The wind is like a wild lion, carrying a salty and wet smell, constantly blowing through the mountain forest, making a huge whirring sound. Deputy Tower Master Gates Jason gritted his teeth in the forest. His eyes were moist, his fists were clenched, and his expression was full of grief. The previous image of Gates' Deputy Tower Master being killed by the Atkinson Tower Master kept echoing in his mind, filling Jason's heart with pain. Jason clearly knew that with the strength of Gates' Deputy Tower Master, he actually had a chance to escape at the beginning. No matter what happened, he could retreat into the forbidden area of the Seven-Star Sea, but he did not. For the sake of the many things in the Spirit Medicine Master Tower disciple, in order to save them, Deputy Tower Master Gates would rather sacrifice himself than escape alone. Jason, no matter what, you must live on and leave a route for the Alchemist Tower. The sonorous voice of Gates' Deputy Tower Master still echoed in Jason's ears for a long time, and Jason's moist eyes in the middle, a firm light flashed in an instant, his lips were pursed and his fists were clenched. Don't worry, Deputy Tower Master Gates, I will definitely fulfill your last wish. One day, I will personally kill Master Atkinson Tower and avenge you. Jason said fiercely, his eyes were full of determination. The next moment, Jason's eyes immediately began to patrol around him. After entering the colorful forbidden area, Jason and the others were teleported to different areas. What caught Jason's eyes at this moment was a damp mountain forest. The ground was covered with a thick layer of rotten leaves. The surroundings were unusually quiet. A little bit of sound. I don't know which area of the forbidden area this is. Let's check if the surrounding area is safe first. Jason murmured, and immediately took out the button-like detector from his body. When he saw the light on it, after receiving the green light, which represented safety, my heart relaxed slightly. The Seven-Star Sea is one of the 7 forbidden areas in the mainland. Even if Jason is a very brave person, he must be cautious, otherwise he will easily end up in despair. Thinking about it now, Atkinson will definitely send people to guard the exit of the forbidden area. It is absolutely impossible to force the forbidden exit to go out to the valley. The only way now is to go directly through the core of the Seven-Star Sea. After passing through the outskirts of the Seven-Star Sea, from the endless desolate sea in the east of the mainland, and entering the east of the mainland, there is a glimmer of hope. The wing-spreading update team updates the fastest. Lightning flashed in Jason's mind, thinking of ways to escape from here. But this is also full of dangers. This Seven-Star Sea is one of the 7 forbidden areas in the mainland. Everywhere is dangerous and abnormal. Going out this way is better than being stuck waiting in the valley by the spiritual master tower, but it's also a narrow escape. Jason, who had been to the forbidden area of the seven-star sea in his previous life, naturally understood the dangers of this seven-star sea. In his previous life, under the protection of several followers at the level of 9th level Holy Spirit Masters, Jason also went through hardships to reach the core of the seven-star sea. Earth, now with the strength of his 8th level Intermediate Emperor Spiritual Master, if he wants to go out, he will probably die on the way. No matter what, let's first find out which area of the forbidden area this is, and then meet up with Lan Yugusan and the others to discuss how to break out together. After thinking for a moment, Jason had already made up his mind, and at the same time began to investigate the surrounding area. The terrain comes. While Jason was exploring the forbidden forest, somewhere a forest away from Jason, whoosh. A crack in space quietly appeared, colorful aurora shined, and a figure suddenly appeared in the forest. The colorful aurora flashed away, and the figure revealed his face. It was one of the 7 powerful Holy Spirit Masters who entered the forbidden area of the seven-star sea and hunted Jason and others. He was the Spirit Master who had presided over the Continental Elite competition that Jason participated in. The 4th Elder of Tatum. As soon as Tim appeared in the forest, he first looked around, and then took out a strange instrument from his body. This instrument was about the size of a palm, with an indicator light and a pointer on it. Looking at the green light on the indicator light, Tim nodded. According to the terrain, this should be a safe area on the periphery of the seven-star sea forbidden area. Tim paid attention to the surroundings vigilantly. These 7 stars, the forbidden sea area, is very large, and it has a certain suppressive effect on the spiritual consciousness of spiritual masters. Even for a strong person at the level of a spiritual master, the range of spiritual consciousness is not large. If the 7 of us spread out our spiritual consciousness and search slowly, not only is the search extremely slow, it may not be possible to completely search the forbidden area even if it takes several years, and it is easy to encounter danger in the forbidden area. Fortunately, when the detector was originally made, in order to prevent the disciples who entered the forbidden area from being in danger and unable to be rescued, there is also a search function added to the terminal of this detector. Elder Tim immediately showed a smile, and then turned on a button on the instrument in his hand. Beep. Beep. Swim. As the button was turned on, Elder Tim's detector suddenly emitted a long and extremely long chirping sound. At the same time, Elder Tim's hand, the pointer on the instrument, also kept beating. Oh, it seems that I am really lucky. There is a detector signal near this mountain forest. It seems that someone has chosen it, not far from me. Elder Tim carefully said, looking at the direction in which the pointer on Huzhong's instrument jumped. The whole person immediately rose up, heading towards the direction of the signal transmission in the mountain forest. The wing-spreading update group updated the fastest, flying away silently. At the same time, in an unknown area in the seven-star sea forbidden area. Whoosh! A figure quickly cut through the sky and flew through the mountain forest. Deputy Tower Master Gates is dead. Deputy Tower Master Gates is actually dead. The man murmured, with horror in his eyes and his whole body trembling uncontrollably. This person is none other than Brad, a disciple of the Spirit Medicine Master Tower who participated in this mainland genius trial, and is an 8th level Intermediate Emperor Spiritual Master. In the elixir list competition, although Brad was defeated by Edmits, he still entered the top 20 on the elixir list, qualified to participate in the genius trial, and was also lucky enough to enter the 7-star sea. One of the 26 genius disciples in the forbidden area. No, I must bring this news back to the Alchemist Tower, tell the tower owner, and tell him everything that happened here. Brad's face was pale, his body was shaking involuntarily, and he quickly passed through the sky towards the 7 stars. On the outskirts of the sea forbidden land, the endless desolate sea, to the west, quickly swept away. Everything that happened in the valley before gave him an extremely huge impact. He, a disciple with a powerful and noble status among the core disciples of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, could not bear it and felt boundless fear. Just when Brad was using all his strength to fly by at high speed, whoops! A stream of light suddenly shot out from the forest below, blocking his face instantly. Who is it? Brad was startled and hurriedly stopped and looked forward. When he saw the face of the figure in front of him, Brad's originally pale face suddenly lost any color. Spiritual Master Tower, Jiet Deputy Tower Master Jialua. Brad said with a trembling voice. The previous fight between Jialua and Deputy Tower Master Gates in the valley left an unforgettable impression in his heart. Now, seeing it, he was filled with fear. Why are you here? Oh, Brad, the core disciple of the spiritual medicine Master Tower. Jiao Luo flew in the air, looking at Bu with a playful look in his eyes. Rad, why am I here? Of course I'm sending you to die. Roar. However, before Jiao Luo could finish speaking, Brad's eyes suddenly flashed with a fierce look, and he said he roared, and an astonishing power rose crazily from his body. His body seemed to have broken some seal, rising step by step, constantly climbing to the peak. Earth Emperor Dragon Transformation Technique, 3 transformations into dragons. Amidst the roar, countless earth element spiritual energy poured down from the sky in an instant. The rich earth element spiritual power gathered into a river of elements above Brad's head. It kept washing and pouring into Brad's body. Brad's body suddenly became larger, and an earthy-colored spirit spread its wings to update the fastest. The force armor condensed on his body. On the armor, densely packed scales appeared. An astonishing aura suddenly rose from his body to the sky. The terrifying emperor-level aura filled the air. The whole person seemed to be transformed. It became a wild giant beast standing proudly in this world. In an instant, Brad's body seemed to be covered with a layer of dragon scales, and his whole body began to transform into a dragon. His hands almost turned into dragon claws, and even an illusory dragon tail appeared behind him, shaking in the void. Issued an astonishing pressure. Roar! Brad roared again. The spear in his hand suddenly straightened up and emitted thousands of rays of light. As the tip of the spear shook, holes were pierced in the void. His figure skyrocketed like a demon, aiming at the Capricorn in the sky. Just prick it. Dragon Demon Tyrant Spear, invincible with one shot. Rumble. The spirit elements between heaven and earth were disturbed in an instant, making a huge roar. The terrifying power that shook the world was instantly aimed at Jialua, Deputy Tower Master, to suppress him. Facing the Deputy Tower Master Jiao Luo, a 9th-level Intermediate Holy Spirit Master, Brad, who was an 8th-level Intermediate Imperial Spirit Master, actually took the lead. In the sky, the monster spiritual power was like a flood that broke a bank, rushing towards the Deputy Tower Master of Jiao Luo. The spear from Brad Huzhong suddenly pierced the void and stabbed the throat of the Deputy Tower Master of Jiao Luo. The Dragon Demon Tyrant Spear, throw it out in one shot and never hold back. With this blow, Brad had already unleashed his strongest attack. However, facing such a terrifying attack from Brad, the face of Deputy Tower Master Jiao Luo remained calm without any fluctuation, and there was even a hint of disdain in his eyes. Phew! He gently raised his right hand, as if without any effort, he easily grabbed Brad's Dragon Demon gun that was about to stab his throat. The terrifying taxi-type spiritual power keeps roaring and surging, but in front of Jialua, a 9th-level Intermediate Holy Spirit Master, Brad is like a baby facing an adult, without the slightest ability to resist. Huzhong's Dragon Demon Tyrant Spear, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move it at all. Gurgling, Brad's eyes showed fear and he made a gurgling sound. On the opposite side, Jialua shook his head slightly, and the spiritual power in his body suddenly erupted. The Dragon Demon Tyrant gun he was holding exploded instantly, and a terrible spiritual power poured into his body. In Brad's horrified eyes, his body suddenly inflated like a balloon, and then, Pung! Brad let out a shrill howl, and his inflated body burst like a rotten watermelon, turning into a rain of blood all over the sky. Spread out. The shrill howl echoed over the mountain forest for a long time, spreading far away, piercing the tranquility of the mountain forest. The first one, Jialua said indifferently, and the next moment, his figure had disappeared into the void. At the same time that Brad was killed, in the 7-star Sea Forbidden Area, the 6 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Masters who entered the Forbidden Area with the Deputy Master of Jialuo were also quickly searching for all the disciples and hunting them. In front of this group of 9th-level Holy Spirit Masters, the disciples of the 8th-level Peak Emperor Spiritual Master at most were just prey to hunters. In the Forbidden Mountain Forest, Jason's spiritual consciousness was scattered, and he was always vigilant and paying attention to everything around him. This should be the middle left area of the Forbidden Area. After a period of searching, Jason already had a slight understanding of the surrounding environment, and at the same time, he found his current location on the map. He is currently in the middle left area of the Forbidden Area, which is located on the periphery of the Forbidden Area and is a safe area. Basically, there is no danger. The ancient ruins that Jason entered originally are located in the extremely dangerous area of the upper right corner of the Forbidden Area. Although the current Jason has no idea of exploring the ancient ruins in his previous life, he has no clue that he is looking for the Blue Moon Ancient Forest. While leaving marks on the places he passes by, he can't help but move towards the Forbidden Area. Search on the right side. Yeah. Suddenly, Jason, who had been flying forward, suddenly stopped and looked ahead warily. In his spiritual perception, a figure with a powerful aura on his body was quickly approaching not far from him by relying on his instant power. Who is it? Jason frowned and shouted in a low voice. Although he hadn't seen anyone yet, the powerful aura and the unique holy level salty pressure from the other party made Jason feel that something was not right. At least Jason knew in his heart that the 26 disciples who entered the Forbidden Area, among them, even the strongest Lan Yugusan, is not a 9th-level Holy Spirit Master. A figure swept out of the forest and stopped in front of Jason. Seeing this figure, Jason's eyes couldn't help but show a hint of surprise, and then slowly turned cold. Elder Tim, you're fine. Jason said coldly. Elder Tim of the Spiritual Master Tower. Jason didn't have much favorable impressions of him during the Continental Elite competition. Now what happened before has made Jason even more angry towards everyone in the Spiritual Master Tower. Jason, it's you. When Tim saw Jason in the forest, he couldn't help but be slightly startled, and then a sneer appeared on his lips. Jason, I really didn't expect that you, who was a 6th-level senior spiritual master in the Genius competition, only a few years later, the Wing Spreading Update team has been updated the fastest. You are an Emperor Spiritual Master who has been promoted to the 8th level. You have become one of the most valued core disciples of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. I have to admit that I was wrong and failed to bring you to the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. What a pity. Looking at Jason, Tim couldn't help but sigh. Voice. What a pity. I don't realize it's a pity. If I were asked to choose again, I wouldn't choose your Spirit Master Tower. Jason said coldly and without mercy. Really? Elder Tim smiled faintly, with confidence in his eyes. No matter what, today we are on the opposite side. I heard that you broke into the Medicine God Tower of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, and you actually broke into the 20th level. 9th floor, God has been kind to me. I am really excited to be able to kill a genius like you. As he spoke, a red long sword with a misty light appeared in Elder Tim's hand. This long sword, as light and thin as a cicada's wings, it exudes an astonishing aura of spiritual power. Don't worry, you are the key target of Lord Atkinson Tower, so I will keep your body intact so that I can show you to Lord Atkinson Tower. Come on, then, just die for me now. Elder Tim said coldly, his long hair flying all over the sky, his fiery red robe fluttering, and the spiritual power radiating from his body fluctuated continuously. Climbing up, the amazing fire spiritual power envelopes the world. Boom! An invisible ripple emanated from Tim's body, and the whole world seemed to turn fiery red in an instant. All space within a radius of 1 kilometer was bound, and the powerful binding force was aimed at Jason's body. Wherever you are, squeeze hard and control the world. Field. The elemental waiting world that only the 9th level Holy Spirit Master can display. In the fire field, the terrifying power of restraint was constantly oppressing Jason. Tim looked at Jason with a sneer on his lips. I know you are very strong, but in front of me, Tim, no matter how strong you are just a genius. Now, I will let you see my true strength as a Holy Spirit Master. Amidst the cold shouts, the fiery red sword in Tim's hand suddenly flew up, sending out red ripples. The void was torn apart like paper. It was like 2 scorching suns were spinning in Tim's eyes, aiming at where Jason was. He struck directly with a sword. Whoops! The bright brilliance tore through the world, and the holy pressure surged in overwhelmingly. In all the space around Jason's body, endless fire elements crushed him. At this moment, everything in the world lost its luster. Only the red light that filled the sky was left, annihilating everything. Domain? Jason's eyes glowed with divine light, the spiritual god art in his body was running rapidly, and at the same time, the 3 spirit beads in his mind were spinning like lightning. 5 elements barrier, rise. Jason shouted loudly, the Wingspan update group is updated the fastest. Buzz. 5-colored light suddenly bloomed from Jason's body, and the endless 5-color divine light spread out continuously. Under Jason's control, a circular spiritual space was formed, covering Jason's surroundings. It is the unique 5-element enchantment that Jason, who practices the spiritual god technique and is a 5-element spiritual master, possesses. As soon as the 5 elements barrier emerged, it immediately collided with the fire field released by Elder Tim. In an instant, the entire world was filled with terrifying explosions. Generally speaking, the barrier of an 8th level Emperor spiritual master has no resistance at all and will fall apart when faced with the realm of a 9th level Holy Spirit Master. However, Jason's 5-element barrier is different. Facing Tim's fire element, instead of collapsing, the domain had a violent conflict with Tim's fire domain. In the 5-color divine light, Jason's whole body soared into the sky, and the spiritual arts in his body were running. At the same time, his body was suddenly wrapped in a set of pitch-black armor, and the black épée in the middle rose up with a burst of flames, forming a long sword. A flaming giant sword that was more than 10 feet tall, and the shadow of a huge flaming giant bird floated behind Jason, exuding astonishing holy level pressure. God-destroying killing technique. 3 waves of phoenix flames. 5 elements are born and destroyed, flames are ruthless. As Jason shouted angrily, the flaming giant sword in his hand collided with the long sword in Tim's hand like lightning. Foe together. Boom. A huge explosion sounded, and the whole sky seemed to shake under this can. In the astonishing explosion, Jason groaned and stepped back dozens of meters, and Tim also stepped back. When I opened the door, my face turned pale. 5 elements barrier, what is this? Why can you block my flame field, you guy? Feeling the 5 elements barrier released by Jason, Elder Tim had a shocked expression on his face. The reason why ordinary Emperor spiritual masters have no power to fight back when facing 9th level Holy Spirit masters is because of the power of the 9th level realm. Under the envelope of the Saint level realm, ordinary Emperor spiritual masters seem to have left the water. The fish's combat effectiveness will be directly reduced by more than half, so how can it compete with the 9th level Holy Spirit Master? But now the 5 elements barrier released by Jason surprised Tim. Although this 5 elements barrier has the attributes of the 5 elements, no matter what, it is only an 8th level elemental barrier, but it can actually be used in his own body. In the fire field, Tim was not left behind at all, which made Tim feel unbelievable. Okay, as expected, he is indeed one of the few geniuses in the Alchemist Tower, an existence that Master Atkinson Tower pays special attention to, but so what, I'll die. Elder Tim shouted coldly, and his pupils instantly turned into turning fiery red. Yuansu's strange flames quickly appeared around him. As soon as these flames appeared, the wingspan update group updated the fastest. Now, even the void is burned, twisted and broken, making crackling explosion sounds, and the laws of fire are flowing, containing an astonishing aura. Pure lotus demonic fire, burn all things. Chi. 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 The terrifying sea of flames spread toward Jason like a flood bursting out of a dam. These flames were extremely terrifying and contained tremendous energy. Each one of them was capable of killing an 8th-level Emperor, spiritual master. But now they were gathered together, aiming at Jason overwhelmingly. Rumble. There were bursts of explosions in the air, and a huge space hole was burned directly into the void, revealing a dark space crack, which bombarded Jason. Facing such a powerful blow from Elder Tim, Jason's face was solemn as never before, but he did not retreat at all. He had just been promoted to the 8th-level low-level Emperor, spiritual master. Gilroy, the Holy Spirit Master, had almost no power to fight back, but that was only after Gilroy had used the secret technique and taken the elixir. Moreover, at that time, Jason had not yet mastered the 5 elements barrier. His understanding of the 5 elements laws was not deep, and he had not yet advanced to the 8th-level intermediate Emperor, spiritual master. Now, facing Elder Tim in his normal state, Jason wanted to see what level of strength he had reached after being promoted to the 8th-level intermediate Emperor, spiritual master and mastering the 5 elements barrier. At this moment, an unconcealable pressure rose from Jason's body, the blood in his chest boiled, the fighting spirit in his eyes boiled. The spiritual art in his body was operating to the extreme, and his eyes were filled with indomitable determination. "Haha, come on!" Jason roared, waving the black heavy sword in his hand, roaring towards the torrent of flames released by Elder Tim. In an instant, Jason's entire body was swallowed up by an endless torrent of flames. Boom! 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 Continuous explosions continued to be heard in the sky. Over the mountains and forests, astonishing explosions continued to spread. A powerful spiritual storm swept through the mountains and forests. There, everything was burned to ashes and turned into nothingness. Under the bombardment of Tim Chung Kao Jingdi demon fire, both trees and rocks were burned into nothingness by the high temperature, leaving only a large amount of black crystal gravel in the entire forest. Humph, this kid Jason didn't run away when he saw me. He actually dared to attack me. Did he think that he still had the power to fight back in front of me? He was simply stupid. In the sky, Tim the Elder could not help but sneer as he felt his pure lotus demon fire destroying everything around him. Elder Tim was filled with disdain for Jason's actions of not escaping and resisting the war. However, the next moment, Elder Tim's expression froze instantly. Boom! 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 In the endless flames, a black figure kept rising and falling, and the black épée in his hand kept slashing, splitting open one after another amidst the huge roar. Flames, gorgeous flames, bloomed in the void, full of dazzle. Jason was like a god of war, rushing out of the endless flames. Roar! Jason let out a loud roar, and the spiritual god technique in his body was operating to the extreme. The 8th-level intermediate 5-element spiritual power was completely boiling. In the roar, 2 5-color divine lights bloomed in Jason's hateful eyes, and the black heavy sword turned into the black angry dragon split the torrent of flames, aimed at Elder Tim, and slashed down hard. Elder Tim's eyes were filled with shock, and he could no longer maintain his proud figure. He pulled out a sword flower from the long sword in his hand and stabbed Jason. The wingspan update group is updated the fastest. Chi. The endless boiling flame elements condensed and formed a dazzling red light in the void, which collided heavily with the black heavy sword swung by Jason. Bang! Amidst the huge roar, both of them retreated. The black U armor, carried by the earth spirit bead on Jason's body, had cracks and was burned open. On the opposite side, Elder Tim was not having a good time either. The spiritual energy in his body surged, and the robe on his body was also damaged a lot, and many places were in a mess. Under Jason's bombardment, the whole person retreated for more than 10 meters in the air before stopping. A tiny trace of blood slipped quietly from the corner of Elder Tim's mouth. "I was hurt and you actually made me hurt." Elder Tim wiped the corner of his mouth with his right hand and looked at the bright red in his mouth. His eyes were full of disbelief and anger, and he let out an angry roar, "Unforgivable, unforgivable." As he spoke, Elder Tim's long hair flying all over the sky instantly, his face was ferocious, huge flames rose from his body, and then he rushed towards Jason fiercely. He was really angry. In the eyes of him, a 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master, no matter how strong or talented Jason was, he was only an 8th level Imperial Spiritual Master. On the Stern Continent, an 8th level Imperial Spiritual Master, for the Holy Spirit Master, although he is not an ant, he is definitely not a Taoist. The two are like separated by a horizontal ditch and a natural chasm, and they belong to two completely different worlds. But now, Jason, an 8th level Imperial Spiritual Master, actually injured himself, which made Tim angry. Rumble. The terrifying roar resounded throughout the world. Elder Tim was like a high-speed train, carrying unrivaled power and rushing towards Jason. "Humph." Jason snorted coldly, his eyes full of fighting spirit, the blood in his body boiling, holding a black heavy sword, and rushed towards Tim without hesitation. Boom. 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 In the sky, the two people fought together, and huge roars continued to resound through the sky. Facing a 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master like Tim, Jason, instead of retreating, he became more and more courageous as he fought, his eyes were firm, and he was completely head-on without using any tricks. Elder Tim's 9th level Saint level spiritual power was constantly released, trying to kill Jason, but no matter how he tried to surprise him, Jason always seemed to be an invincible little strongman, fighting with him. The two fought from the sky to the ground, passing through mountains and forests. Wherever they went, everything was destroyed and left in a mess. While Tim and Jason were constantly fighting, in the mountain forest about hundreds of miles away from the two, a cyan figure was flying easily through the mountain forest. This green figure is extremely ethereal, like a line of blue smoke, flowing in the mountain forest, giving people an ethereal feeling. What is even more surprising is that when this figure flies by, although it is extremely fast, it does not a trace of spiritual power fluctuation. The wing spreading update group updated the fastest. It came out as if it was completely integrated with the entire mountain forest, making it difficult for people to notice. Huh? Suddenly, the figure suddenly stopped, revealing a beautiful and delicate face, and looked at the place where Jason and Tim were fighting. It turned out to be Lanuigusan. Such a strong spiritual power fluctuation, such a strong pressure. One of them should be a 9th level Holy Spirit Master, and the other one. Shao Lanuigusan frowned, felt it carefully, and then suddenly there was a flash in his eyes showing surprise. This kind of multi-attribute spiritual power is like Jason? Having stayed with Jason for so long, Lanuigusan is very familiar with Jason's special spiritual attributes. How come there is a 9th level Holy Spirit Master in this forbidden area? By the way, the Spiritual Master Tower must have sent people into the forbidden area to hunt us down. No, Jason is in danger. Lanuigusan exclaimed in surprise. Immediately, a sharp light flashed in his eyes, and his whole person turned into a stream of light, rushing towards the place where the battle wave came from, and disappeared into the sky in an instant. Distant. In the sky, endless spiritual energy boiled in the sky. The battle between Jason and Tim turned the entire sky into a sea of spiritual energy. Is this Jason really an 8th level Emperor spiritual master? Under Jason's constant resistance, Elder Tim became more and more frightened as he fought. He roared continuously, attacked and killed, and the red long sword of Zhonghua continued to release thousands of red sword lights, non-stop. The attack was directed at Jason. However, Jason seemed to be an elegant master, his figure kept flashing in the air, dodging Tim's attacks again and again, and Hu Zhong's black épée was used to an unimaginable degree. No matter how fast and sharp Tim's attacks were, they always hit Jason's body directly. They were all blocked by the Black Ape in time, and he was not defeated. Damn it, damn it. Tim kept roaring in his heart, and was full of fear at the same time. This Jason is indeed the person designated to be killed by the master of Atkinson Tower. How can he be so strong? From the spirit prescription he released, although it is extremely powerful, has a variety of attributes, but its essence seems to be the 8th level intermediate spiritual power, but it can be supported by me, a 9th level Holy Spirit Master. With his talent, if he is promoted to a 9th level Holy Spirit Master, then just thinking about this possibility made Tim feel frightened in his heart. As an elder of the Spiritual Master Tower, Tim naturally understood the final plan quite well. The original plan did not seem to be in this bloody trial. The Lian Shang's activation had to be delayed for a period of time, but it was advanced by Atkinson Tower Master. Among the upper echelons of the Spiritual Master Tower, it is rumored that the reason why Atkinson Tower Master advanced this final plan is because Jason broke into the 29th floor of the Medicine God Tower in the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower, which made Master Atkinson Tower feel in danger. One said that in the past, Tim didn't believe it at all, but now, Tim has no choice but to believe it. In the entire Spiritual Master Tower, who knows Jason first, is naturally Elder Tim, who presided over the Continental Elite competition that year. However, more than 3 years ago, the Wing Spreading Update team was the fastest updated. In the mainland Elite competition, Jason was a 6th level Senior Spiritual Master. Although he defeated Leonardo and became the champion of the competition, the original Jason was just a person who had exhausted his potential in the eyes of Elder Tim. He is a genius who is not good at all. If he really wants to take action, he can be easily crushed to death with one finger. But now, just over 3 years have passed, and Jason has been promoted from the 6th level Senior Spiritual Master to the 8th level Intermediate Emperor Spiritual Master, and he is almost even with himself. If a few more years pass, in the past 10 years, when Jason has advanced to the 9th level of Holy Spirit Master, just thinking about it makes Elder Tim tremble in his heart. During the powerful fire attack, while Elder Tim was trembling in his heart, Jason, who was constantly fighting back, had sweat on his forehead, waving the heavy sword in his hand, and his eyes were sharp. There is indeed a gap between an 8th level Intermediate Emperor Spiritual Master and a 9th level Holy Spirit Master. Jason said silently in his heart, but the movements in his hands were non-stop and counterattacks. After such a long period of fighting, Jason has a clear understanding of Elder Tim's strength. With the help of the 5 elements barrier, Elder Tim's 9th level domain has almost no impact on Jason, but the spiritual power of the 9th level saint is, after all, a huge step higher than the spiritual power of the 8th level emperor. Even if Jason has the 5 elements attribute, even if he uses the spiritual magic in his body to the extreme, in the battle with Elder Tim, he was still at a disadvantage. However, with Jason's perfect body and the sword that has reached the realm of transformation, no matter how fierce Elder Tim's attacks are, they can rarely hit him. Even if the attacks are so intensive that there is no resistance, they will occasionally hit him. With the powerful recovery ability of armor and with spirit beads, the injuries on the body can also be healed and the injuries can be minimized. With the combination of so many factors, Jason was able to withstand this terrifying attack. Despite this, the black armor on Jason's body was still full of cracks, and blood oozed from the injuries everywhere. It seems that if I really want to be able to defeat the average 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master, I have to wait until I advance to the 8th level advanced level. Jason said with emotion while resisting. If his emotions at this moment were heard by other spiritual masters from the outside world, I am afraid that all of them would be furious and curse. In terms of genius level, except for Jason, Dominic, the #1 genius in the Spiritual Master Tower, is probably one of the best in the entire continent. But even Dominic, although he can fight against ordinary 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Masters, he can only reach the level of Jason at most. But who is Dominic? That is the top genius in the entire continent. He was able to do this only after he advanced to the 8th level peak Emperor Spiritual Master and now completely consolidated the 8th level peak realm. And now Jason is the 8th level peak Emperor Spiritual Master. A mid-level Imperial Spirit Master, but he still thinks that he is not capable of defeating a 9th level Holy Spirit Master. If word spreads, the rest of the geniuses on the mainland, including Dominic, will commit suicide in shame. While Jason was thinking about it, Elder Tim became more frightened as he fought. No, I must kill him this time. I must not let him escape. Otherwise, if he escapes, I will be in danger in the future. In the sky, Elder Tim, who had been fighting Jason for a long time, felt something in his heart. A flash of light suddenly flashed in his eyes, and after a fight with Jason, he backed away like lightning. On the opposite side, Jason also retreated. What? Elder Tim, why don't you continue to attack? In the void, Jason and Tim faced each other from a distance, with a sneer on their lips. Although Jason acted as if nothing had happened on the surface, the wood spirit beads in his mind were constantly spinning rapidly, releasing strong wood vitality to repair the injuries on his body. Humph, Jason, I have to admit that you are a genius and your strength exceeds my estimation. However, don't think that you will be safe. Today, you will inevitably die. Elder Tim's face was ashen and he snorted coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, a medicine bottle suddenly appeared in his right hand. This is a bottle of spiritual potion containing a fiery red solution, which exudes astonishing imperial pressure. As soon as it is taken out, the surrounding fire elements boil and condense. Gudong. As soon as Elder Tim took out this bottle of spiritual potion, he poured it into it. In the middle, the fiery red elixir entered his belly. Boom. A huge wave of spiritual power continued to rise from Elder Tim's body, rising steadily. This, Elder Tim, you are actually in front of me. Take the elixir? Seeing Tim's action, Jason was stunned for a moment and then couldn't help but laugh. He waved his left hand, and suddenly, several bottles of elixir that also exuded Emperor-level pressure appeared on Jason's left side. Huh. You have the elixir, don't I? Well, let me see, I have too many Emperor-level elixirs here. I have to find one that can best enhance my combat effectiveness. Jason said deliberately, and then scanned Guahua picked out the bottles of elixirs, as if he was choosing between them. Well, let's choose this bottle. Jason immediately selected one of the bottles, took it out, and then poured the selected bottle of elixir in one gulp, and other elixirs were put back into the space ring by him. On the opposite side, seeing Jason's actions, Elder Tim couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth, and he was so angry that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Although he is the elder of the Spiritual Master Tower and a 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master, he does not have many Emperor-level spiritual potions on his body. The bottle of 8th level high-grade Emperor-level spiritual potion he took before was the result of all his hard work. He just got it, but now, when he went to the forest, he took out several bottles of elixirs that were not weaker than his in terms of aura, and they also selected them in front of him, so he could not get angry. Boy, go to hell. Elder Tim let out a roar, and his hair flew instantly. With secret movement, rays of fiery red light bloomed from his body, and all the fire elements in the air suddenly surged like crazy into his body. One of the mysteries of the fire element, flame class /. Elder Tim raised his hands high, and all the fire elements in the air instantly gathered on the flame sword in his hand, forming a huge flame. The wingspan update group is updated the fastest. Greatsword. Die. Elder Tim's eyes widened angrily, with a cold murderous intent at the corner of his mouth. He roared, and a flaming sword light that was more than 10 feet long slashed out from the flaming giant sword and broke through the void. Aiming at Jason, he slashed hard. Wherever the flaming sword light went, the void collapsed, revealing dark cracks in space, forming energy storms that enveloped Jason. Facing such a fierce blow from Elder Tim, a cunning light suddenly flashed in Jason's eyes. Boo! 2 lightning wings suddenly flashed out behind Jason. They were the lightning wings that Jason had not used for a long time. Then one by one, boo! Jason instantly dodged Elder Tim's attack, and then transformed into a stream of light flew towards the sky like lightning. Elder Tim, I'm sorry, I won't accompany you anymore. You can play alone, haha. Jason said loudly, and his figure quickly shrunk in the distance, and actually ran away. The huge flaming sword light displayed by Elder Tim was dodged by Jason, and its power remained unabated, and it immediately struck a high mountain in the distance. Boom! The entire mountain peak collapsed under the flaming sword light, making a shocking roar. Jason, you brat, I'm going to cut you into pieces. Seeing that Jason escaped at the most critical moment, Elder Tim was so angry that his whole body turned into a stream of flames, criticizing headed towards Jason's location. Jason, if you dare, stop. Aren't you very strong? How dare you fight me to the death? Elder Tim roared angrily while using all his strength to fight. The Wings Update group updated the fastest. He had just taken the only bottle of 8th level high-grade spiritual potion in his body. If Jason really escaped and the effect of the medicine wore off after a while, then not only would he fail to kill Jason, but he would have lost a bottle of 8th grade spiritual potion in vain. The top grade elixir is naturally furious. I will fight to the death with you, Elder Tim. Do you think I am an idiot? Jason's voice came from the distant sky. When Tim took the elixir, Jason was already ready to escape, so the bottle of elixir he chose happened to increase the speed of the spiritual master. In fact, if it comes to competing for spiritual potions, Jason is not weaker than Elder Tim at all. Jason can improve as much as Elder Tim can improve, but how can he be the same? As long as there is no 9th level holy elixir to break through to the 9th level holy level, the outcome will not change. Under normal conditions, Jason's strength is slightly inferior to that of Elder Tim. If he takes a spiritual potion, even if Elder Tim has just taken a bottle of 8th grade high-grade spiritual potion, Jason can still upgrade himself to Elder Tim. Slightly better. But that's it, because of his original strength, even if Jason takes the elixir again, without an overwhelming advantage, he will only injure Elder Tim at most, but not kill him, which is just a waste of the elixir. Of course, Jason still has one last killing move, God's Wrath, which may be able to kill Elder Tim once used. However, it takes time to display the wrath of God, and it may not be able to hit with one blow. The last time we fought against Gilroy, the Lord of the South City of Sin City, in the City of Chaos, he was blocked by Gilroy, the Lord of the South City. More importantly, yes, once the wrath of God is unleashed, there will be a period of weakness. Jason does not believe that in this forbidden land of the Seven-Star Sea, the Spirit Master Tower has only sent Elder Tim alone, and the forbidden land of the Seven Stars itself is full of dangers once he falls into it. Weak and likely to perish. Therefore, instead of fighting desperately with Elder Tim, Jason might as well be honest. In the sky, Elder Tim kept chasing Jason, but his heart was full of anger. At the same time, he was surprised to find that his strength had been improved because of taking the elixir, but he could not catch up with Jason in terms of speed. Little did he know that Jason was already very fast, and because of the amplitude of the lightning wings and the consumption of an 8th level Emperor level elixir specifically designed to increase speed, his speed had reached an extremely terrifying level. Jason, do you think you can escape? Looking at Jason's retreating figure, Elder Tim let out a shocking roar. He took out the special detector from his body and completely locked onto Jason. Direction and prevent it from escaping from its control. At the same time, Elder Tim took out all the elixirs on his body, and then poured bottles into his mouth while flying. In order to increase his speed, the Wingspan Update group is updated the fastest. Generally speaking, elixirs with the same effect cannot be superimposed, so taking a large amount of elixirs with the same effect is completely a waste. But at this time Elder Tim can no longer care about so many. At this moment, there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to kill Jason. Once Jason is killed, he leaves the forbidden area and reports to the Master of Atkinson Tower. The master of the tower will definitely give him a very generous reward. Then all the elixirs he took today will be worth it. In front of Elder Tim, looking at Elder Tim approaching behind him, Jason's brows furrowed slightly. Elder Tim's persistence exceeded Jason's expectations. Jason thought that once the opponent found that he could not catch up with him, he would stop, but this was not the case. Elder Tim pursued him persistently, and his persistence was almost in fanaticism. What Jason didn't know was that he was at the top of the list given by the master of Atkinson Tower, even higher than Lan Yugusin, who was ranked first on the list of elixirs in the Alchemist Tower. The reward for killing him would be far greater than that of other disciples, so Tim naturally refused to give up. But what makes Jason curious is that many times, he has clearly thrown away Elder Tim's sight, restrained his spiritual power, and hidden himself, but Elder Tim found his position clearly every time. This made him extremely confused. But once, after seeing the special instrument in Elder Tim's hand, Jason finally understood that the reason why Elder Tim was able to catch up with him was probably inseparable from the instrument in his hand. It seems that this detector not only has the ability to detect the danger in the area where the detective is, but also has certain positioning capabilities. Jason took out the detector on his body and murmured. With his intelligence, he naturally understood the reason in a moment. Just when Jason took an opportunity to throw Elder Tim away for a moment again, he was about to throw away the detector in his hand. Jason! A familiar voice suddenly sounded in Jason's ears. A familiar voice sounded in Jason's ears, and a hint of surprise suddenly flashed across Jason's originally solemn face. Lan Yugusin! He looked in the direction of the sound, and saw that not far away, Lan Yugusin was looking at him with the same joy. Jason, what's going on? Seeing Jason's appearance, Lan Yugusin's eyes flashed with sparkle. It's Elder Tim, from the Spiritual Master Tower. Jason immediately told Lan Yugusin in detail what had happened previously. After telling Lan Yugusin everything, Jason seemed to have thought of something, and said hurriedly, Burning Moon Gusin, first destroy the detector on your body that detects the danger level of the area. Tim from the Spirit Master Tower elders and others have instruments in their hands that can detect our position through this detector. Elder Tim? Is there a detector that has detected our position? Lan Yugusin sneered, with the strength of the two of us, can we still detect our position? Do you need to be afraid of him? Seeing Lan Yugusin's confident look, lightning flashed in Jason's heart, and a thought suddenly appeared in his mind. As soon as this idea appeared, even Jason himself felt a little crazy. Immediately, this idea grew in his heart like poison. After carefully considering the feasibility, Jason gritted his teeth and made up his mind. Lan Yugusin, with your strength, can you trap Elder Tim for a while? Jason, who had made up his mind, immediately asked Lan Yugusin. Seeing Jason's appearance, Lan Yugusin couldn't help but smile. Trapped Elder Tim? No problem. What, do you have any plans? No problem? Hearing Lan Yugusin's words, Jason's eyes flashed with a flash of light, and a smile broke out at the corner of his mouth. Okay, very good, as long as you can trap him for a moment, I can do it. Kill this Tim. After being chased by Tim for so long, Jason had long been filled with anger, and his eyes were boiling with murderous intent. Jason is full of trust in Lan Yugusin's strength. Others don't know it, but he has lived with Lan Yugusin for so long, but he understands that although Lan Yugusin's strength has not been fully demonstrated for many years, it is absolutely better than Dominic, the so-called top master of the Spiritual Master Tower. Above the endless mountain forest, Elder Tim was searching for Jason with an angry face. Where on earth is this brat hiding? Elder Tim kept looking at the detector in his hand, but the signal on the detector had completely disappeared since then. This guy must have destroyed the detector on his body. It's really abominable. Elder Tim kept searching over the mountains and forests. When he thought that he had worked hard for so long, but Jason still escaped, Tim Elder Moo's heart was furious and filled with anger. Thinking that he is a dignified Spiritual Master Tower elder, the 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master has not been able to kill Jason, the 8th level Intermediate Emperor Spiritual Master, after taking the 8th level high-grade Imperial Spiritual Potion. People know that he is probably in the Spiritual Master Tower, and they don't know how they will be laughed at. Just when Tim was looking around like a headless fly over the mountain forest, suddenly boom! There was a sound in the air, and the endless trees in the mountain forest suddenly seemed to come to life, waving their branches as if they had turned into living whips, rushing towards Tim's location like lightning. What? Elder Tim was startled. The long sword in his hand instantly drew a red aurora and slashed at the branches and vines in the sky. Chi! 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 A large number of vines were easily cut off by Elder Tim, just as Elder Tim carefully observed the forest below and sneered in his heart. Boom! Boom! Several vines all over the sky suddenly bloomed with dazzling green light. The speed that was originally flying quickly increased again, and the electricity shot towards Elder Tim's left hand. Damn it! Elder Tim was shocked by the sudden change. Zayuni's spiritual energy boiled, and the long sword in his hand slashed at the vines desperately. Chong! Chong! However, a scene that surprised Elder Tim happened. The hardness of these vines was much stronger than the previous ones. There were 6 vines in total. Elder Tim, after a vigorous blow, only 3 of them were cut off, and 3 more were enveloping Elder Tim's left hand from different directions. One of the vines directly wrapped around the detector in Elder Tim's hand and rolled it away from Elder Tim's hand, while the other 2 changed directions, like spiritual snakes coming out of their holes, and stabbed directly at Elder Tim's hand. Eyes. Under this sudden attack, Elder Tim ignored the detector in his left hand. He shouted loudly. The 5 fingers of his left hand spread out, and flames burned on them. He aimed at the 2 vines and grabbed them hard. Caught the 2 vines. Crackling. A sharp explosion of spiritual power sounded, and under Elder Tim's grasp, the 2 vines burned and exploded, turning into wood-type essence that filled the sky. Who was pretending to be a ghost? Get out of my way. After the crisis was resolved, Elder Tim stared coldly at a certain place in the mountain forest and let out a cold drink. In the eyes of Elder Tim, a beautiful woman wearing a blue robe and long blue hair rose slowly from the mountain forest. Lanui-gusen, is it you? Seeing this woman, Elder Tim was overjoyed at first. Then, as if he thought of something, his eyes narrowed again. Where is Jason? Is Jason around too? Come out quickly. Elder Tim, are you looking for me? Behind Tim, another figure slowly rose from the forest. It was Jason. Seeing Jason and Lanui-gusen, Elder Tim felt both excited and heavy at the same time. To his great joy, he found the 2 people that Lord Atkinson Tower was most concerned about. If he killed them both, Elder Tim would not even know what kind of reward Master Atkinson Tower would give him, and what's more, Jason's strength previously made Elder Tim no longer dare to underestimate him. Now he is joined by Blue Moon, who is known as the #1 disciple of the Alchemist Tower and has occupied the top spot on the Alchemist Tower's list of spiritual medicines for 10 years. Gusen, the 2 of them, made Tim feel a little pressure in his heart. What, Jason, Lanui-gusen, do you think you 2 can be my opponent if you join forces? That's ridiculous. Although he was wary, Elder Tim showed no signs of expression on his face and stared coldly. Looking at Lanui-gusen and Jason who surrounded him, their eyes were full of confidence. The 2 of us join forces? Elder Tim, you think too highly of yourself. I, Lanui-gusen, never like to join forces with others. I can handle you alone. A sneer appeared on Lanui-gusen's face, and then he looking at Jason in the distance. Jason, please stay away. I want to see what Elder Tim of the Spiritual Master Tower has up to him. As soon as he finished speaking, Lanui-gusen suddenly appeared. A green stick. This stick is like a vine, with complex spiritual patterns engraved on it. On the top of the vine, there is also a green bead inlaid, exuding an amazing aura. The monstrous aura comes from the blue moon. Gusen's body bloomed, and the blue moon Gusen's green eyes suddenly rotated, and the whole person rushed towards Elder Tim. Boom! The terrible spiritual power was dissipated, and the water and wood spiritual powers in the entire world were furious at this moment. The two spiritual powers complemented each other and formed a unique barrier, which was in harmony with the one that Elder Tim had released before. The domains collided together. The two forces collided, and the sky continued to collapse, revealing huge space cracks. This blue moon Gusen is really abnormal. Feeling that the barrier released by Lan Yu Gusen was evenly matched with his own domain, with no distinction between superior and inferior, Elder Tim couldn't help but yell fiercely in his heart. Generally speaking, on the mainland, the barrier of an 8th-level Emperor spiritual master, in front of the realm of the 9th-level Holy Spirit Master, it is like the white snow under the scorching sun in summer, simply vulnerable. But now, Tim has met Jason and Lanyu Gusen one after another, two people who can use the barrier to collide with his realm. The abnormality made Tim extremely depressed. However, the next moment, Elder Tim could no longer think about so much, because the attack of Blue Moon Gusen had already arrived in front of him. Water elements like silk ribbons appeared in the sky, the gorgeous flying objects wrapped around him, and at the same time, the wood elements all over the sky also formed vines, wrapping around him. Go away! Elder Tim roared. The 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit power in his body was operating to the extreme, and his body burned with red flames. He kept swinging the long sword in his hand, slashing at the vines and water element ribbons. Boom! 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 Continuous explosions resounded throughout the world. Elder Tim and Lan Yu Gusen were already fighting. Although Lan Yu Gusen said that he was fighting alone, Elder Tim was always distracted, paying attention to Jason not far away, for fear that he would use some tricks. However, what surprised Tim was that Jason really didn't seem to have any tricks. He just stood aside quietly without any intention of taking action. As the battle with Lan Yu Gusen progressed, Elder Tim became more and more frightened as the war progressed. Different from Jason's head-on fighting style, Lan Yu Gusen, who is both water and wood elements, is full of tenderness. If facing Jason, Elder Tim can still suppress him with the strength of the 9th-level low-level. In front of Lan Yu Gusen, his method was completely unworkable. The water element ribbons and wood vines seemed to be endless. No matter how Tim cut them off, they still entangled themselves relentlessly. Like invisible strings, constantly surrounding Elder Tim, making Tim unable to use his strength. Humph, do you think you can trap me and defeat me with this? You are so underestimated. Seeing more and more wood vines and water ribbons around him, Elder Tim let out a cold drink. The next moment, his body suddenly bloomed with dazzling brilliance. One of the mysteries of fire, burning flames to destroy the world. Endless fire spiritual power was continuously released from his body. At this moment, Elder Tim's entire body turned into a huge fireball, which continued to release huge heat, burning cracks into the void one after another. Who? Not only the void, but also the wood-type vines released by the Blue Moon Ancient Sen, which kept wrapping around him, also burned like wood under this high temperature, and those water-type silk ribbons, it kept making hissing sounds, and was directly incinerated into nothingness, water spiritual energy elements, dissipating into the air. Haha, let's see what other tricks you have. Seeing the surrounding wood vines and water ribbons dissipating into nothingness, Elder Tim burst into hearty laughter. Huh? At this moment, Elder Tim suddenly felt a trace of extremely terrifying spiritual power flashing across Jason's body in the distance. He immediately turned his head and stared at Jason. Jason, what are you doing? What the hell? But before he could tell the truth, boom. The blue-green light representing the water and wood elements bloomed all over Lan Yu Gusen's body opposite him. At the same time, the beads on the spiritual staff in Lan Yu Gusen's hand began to glow. Also emitted a dazzling light like the scorching sun. Call out. Lan Yuigusan threw the emerald green spiritual staff high into the sky. The emerald green spiritual staff grew in the wind and instantly turned into a huge vine that snaked nearly 100 feet. God Abbot Qingmu, transform into a sacred tree, imprison the heaven and earth, and secure the world forever. Lan Yuigusan shouted loudly. The huge vine was like a flexible giant snake, constantly meandering and swimming, with mysterious and profound paths. The aura was continuously released from his body, revealing an astonishing aura. Seizing the opportunity, Lan Yuigusan's eyes gleamed, and he directly wrapped Elder Tim in it. Abbot Aoki, what is that? Elder Tim was so frightened that he could no longer care about Jason, who was standing aside. The long sword in his hand slashed wildly at the huge vine transformed by Abbot Aoki. However, no matter how Elder Tim chopped it, the huge vine was like an eternal iron that could never be destroyed, making a clanging sound of gold and iron, but leaving white marks on it. What? Seeing this scene, Elder Tim couldn't help but be filled with shock. The fiery red, transparent long sword in his hand was as thin as a cicada's wings. It was a low-grade spiritual weapon of the heavenly level. It was indestructible. Unable to break the green vine, his full blow could only leave a white mark on it, which made Elder Tim not tremble. In the sky, endless vines intertwined with each other to form unique structures, turning into a cage, exuding a terrifying aura, and completely surrounding Elder Tim. Elder Tim, take my move. On the opposite side, Lan Yuigusan hit the target with a strike, and a brilliant light flashed in his eyes. Small whirlpools of cyan and blue spiritual power appeared on his body, and they quickly condensed into a huge whirlpool. The elemental blade was aimed at the trapped Elder Tim in the air and slashed away. Buzz. With this blow, the world seemed to tremble, a sharp whistling sound sounded, and the space was shattered like paper. The elemental blade, containing a terrifying aura, prevented Elder Tim from flying away. The secret of water and wood dual elements, void slash. Elder Tim's eyes suddenly widened, and countless fire rays continued to erupt from his body. Powerful fire element fluctuations descended, trying to break free from the heaven and earth cage cast by Lan Yuigusan. Pa. 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 The vines containing the power of the terrifying wood element were continuously stretched open by Elder Tim. The spiritual patterns and talismans outside continued to explode. The Aoki God Abbot, although it was not destroyed, the condensed cage not only shook, but also exploded. The moment Asher saw that the elemental blade packed with terrifying destructive power was about to hit Elder Tim let out a roar. His long hair suddenly flew into the sky, and 7 spirits suddenly appeared on his body. Ring, the roars of countless fire spirit beasts resounded in the sky, and a blazing flame burst out from his body, finally opening the heaven and earth cage formed by the Aoki God Abbot. Boom! Elder Tim dodged at the last moment. At the last moment, the long sword in his hand collided with the elemental blade released by Lan Yuigusan. With a huge roar, Elder Tim's whole body was thrown away violently, the robe on his body was torn. A trace of blood slipped quietly from his cheek, and his eyes were as red as flames. I want you to die. Elder Tim, who had narrowly escaped death, went completely berserk. An angry roar came from his mouth, and flames shot up from his body, like a flame war god, exuding endless pressure. Elder Mu. At this moment, an indifferent voice suddenly came from behind Tim. Huh? Tim was startled, and suddenly turned around, only to see Jason not far away, who had never moved, looking at him with a smile on his face. The next moment, one by one, boom. An indescribable terrifying power suddenly rose from Jason's body. The terrifying pressure was like the coming of darkness, making the hairs all over Elder Tim's body stand up instantly. Elder Tim's eyes suddenly fell on Jason's right hand, and he saw that at the fingers of Jason's right hand, a series of misty black lights were flashing, continuously cutting open space cracks in the space. No bridge. Elder Tim's face suddenly turned ugly. The terrifying energy permeated by the black light in Jason's right hand actually made him, a ninth-level low-level Holy Spirit Master, feel the slightest tremble, and he felt like he wanted to retreat. Feel. During the previous battle between Lan Yugusin and Elder Tim, Jason, who had been floating silently aside, did not slack off at all, but quietly condensed the wrath of God. Finally, at this moment, he spent a lot of Jason, who had great strength, created the wrath of God. Seeing the ugly expression on Elder Tim's face, Jason didn't hesitate at all and pointed directly at him with a snap of his finger. Whoops! A black stream of light was like a cold star. It shot out from Jason's fingers and turned into a stream of light. Like a meteor, it shot towards Elder Tim's location like lightning. The speed of this cold star was so fast that it had already arrived in front of Elder Tim before he could react. Not good. Elder Tim instantly felt an incomparable crisis in his heart. He didn't care to take action against Lan Yuigusin again. The holy level pressure suddenly dissipated from his body, and the fire elements in the world instantly became violent. It condensed on the long sword in his hand, and then, at the last moment, it collided hard with the wrath of God displayed by Jason. Boom! An uncontrollable, earth-shaking explosion suddenly exploded in the void. After the loud noise, there was a collision of energy that erupted like a volcano. The destructive energy spread out from the void. The empty space was rippled at this moment. Even the illusory air was affected by the powerful force. The collision of energy made it somewhat blurry and distorted. In the center of the explosion, huge space holes appeared continuously like soap bubbles, and then burst, making a rumbling sound, and the sky and the earth were pale. Brilliant spiritual light exploded in the blue sky, sweeping across the sky like a wave of fire. Seeing such a terrifying scene, Lan Yuigusin, who had been watching with great interest from the sky, retreated as if avoiding a snake or scorpion. Come on. The terrifying power made her expression dull as she was watching the show. In the sky, the endless smoke and dust dispersed. In the expectant eyes of Jason and Lan Yuigusin, a charred and embarrassed figure teetered in the void, and then fell down. This figure was none other than Tim from the Spirit Master Tower. Elder, at this moment, he no longer has the arrogance and majesty of Xian Bing. The fiery red spiritual master's robe on his body had already been reduced to nothingness in the horrific explosion. His whole body was covered in scars and was charred black. His originally flowing long hair was also charred black. His whole body was covered with wounds, and blood was constantly spewing out. Under the bombardment of Jason's divine wrath, he, a ninth-level low-level Holy Spirit Master, could not even keep flying in the air and fell straight down. Bang! With the heavy impact, Elder Tim fell like a ragbag on the messy ground of the mountain forest. His whole body twitched uncontrollably, blood spurted out from his mouth, and he could only breathe out. There is no air coming in. Jason, are you too cruel? I was going to torture him, but now, you let me. Looking at this scene, Lan Yuigusin murmured in the sky, his eyes widening, full of disbelief. In the sky, Jason was breathing heavily, feeling waves of weakness and dizziness in his mind. He immediately took out a bottle of recovery potion from the space ring and poured it into it. It is slightly better. It seems Elder Tim can't be saved. Lan Yuigusin fell in front of Elder Tim, felt Elder Tim's body with his spiritual sense, shook his head and said, "Can he be saved?" Jason came closer and saw Elder Tim's miserable body. He suddenly stretched out his hand and tapped hundreds of times on Elder Tim's body. Ahem. Elder Tim immediately coughed up a large amount of blood clots in his mouth, and a trace of clarity returned to his eyes. Scoff. However, before he could say anything, the black heavy sword in Jason's hand was already placed on his neck. Tell me, how many of you entered the 7-star sea forbidden area this time? Jason looked at Elder Tim with cold eyes, and spoke coldly with murderous intent in his mouth. The peaceful mountain forest was a mess, with only the strong wind blowing by, bringing with it the unique salty and wet smell of the seven-star sea forbidden land. Unexpectedly, in order to kill our group of disciples from various major forces who entered the forbidden area, the spiritual master tower actually sent 7 ninth-level Holy Spirit masters to snipe and kill us. Among them, there was even the 9th-level deputy tower master of spiritual master Takara. Intermediate Holy Spirit masters, this spirit master tower is going to kill us all. In the forest, Jason spoke with a gloomy face. Under Jason's interrogation, Elder Tim was tough for a moment at first, but after Jason showed some strength, Elder Tim, who had been tough and righteous before, could no longer hold on and pushed himself. The distribution and strength of the team that entered the forbidden area to hunt down Jason and others were thoroughly explained. 6 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Masters, including 1 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master Lan Yu Gusen murmured with a bright light in his eyes. Although before, with the cooperation of Jason, the two of them defeated Elder Tim, a 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master, the two of them were still slightly frightened when they thought of such a huge lineup. Those 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Masters were okay. After all, according to Elder Tim's story, the 7 of them were chased separately. Jason and Lan Yu Gusen were together and had no fear at all, but when they thought about Jia Luo, a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, was still full of vigilance in their hearts. The 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master is not like the 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master. The strength of the two is not on the same level at all. Jason and Lan Yu Gusen just defeated Elder Tim, a 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master, but when they thought about the strength of Jia Luo's deputy tower master, the two of them had no confidence at all. Jason, what should we do now? Lan Yu Gusen turned his attention to Jason. According to what Tim said, although the 7 of them will arrive in different places after entering the forbidden area, they will be unified. We started searching in the direction of the outer exit of the 7-star sea, and then pushed inward layer by layer, completely blocking our access. In the valley outside the only restricted exit, the master of Atkinson Tower and the others were sitting, which blocked all our access. They are all completely blocked. Lan Yu Gusen's face was cold. What should we do? Jason's eyes flashed with a sneer, and a sneer bloomed at the corner of his mouth. Isn't this good? Although they have blocked all our access, they have to wait until they reach the end before advancing to the innermost position. Everyone is scattered. As long as we gather Cassinus and the others before they find us, we can defeat them one by one and solve them one by one. Destroy them one by one and solve them one by one? After hearing Jason's words, Lan Yu Gusen's eyes suddenly lit up, filled with excitement. Yes, since they dare to enter the forbidden area to hunt us, they must be careful and be killed by us. From now on, the positions of hunters and prey have changed. Jason nodded, but we are pressed for time. After everyone enters the forbidden area, they are all scattered. We need to find everyone first before Jialua Deputy Tower Master and the others find Cassinus to maximize our strength. In the mountain forest, Jason and Lan Yu Gusen looked at each other, eyes filled with fighting intent. What about Tim? Lan Yu Gusen looked at Tim, who was lying there, looking at Jason and her with horror on his face, and asked. Him? Chusen looked at Z. Jason, please let me go. I will never tell anyone about your plan. I never thought that you would be so powerful that you could defeat me with the power of an 8th-level intermediate emperor spiritual master. Your talent is rare in the world. I have never seen it in the nearly 10,000 years of mainland history. I believe that you will rule the world in the future. Let me go. I will never dare to go against you again. This time I enter the forbidden area. This is completely the order of Atkinson Tower Master, we have no choice but to do it. Lying on the ground in a panic, covered in blood, the dying Elder Tim suddenly shouted in horror. By the way, I can work for you, lurk in the Spirit Master Tower, and gather information for you, as long as you let me go. He was really scared. Jason's previous trip was too terrifying. Although he tried his best to resist, he was not killed instantly, but the meridians and internal organs in his body were already in a mess. He was seriously injured, and he had no ability to resist at all. The current situation is that man is a slave to the sword, and he is a fish, and there is no room for him not to compromise or beg for mercy. Of course, while he was screaming in fear, Elder Tim had made up his mind. As soon as Jason let him go, he would immediately find the Deputy Tower Master Jiao Luo. With the strength of Deputy Tower Master Jiao Luo, he would definitely be able to kill Jason and Lanui Gusen together. We have no choice? Jason sneered, and the black heavy sword in Huzhong suddenly thrust out without hesitation. No! Elder Tim shouted hysterically. Bang! In Elder Tim's frightened eyes, the black heavy sword in Jason's hand suddenly struck him on the head, and the terrifying spiritual power was released. As the fourth elder of the Spiritual Master Tower, he is a 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master. The head of Elder Tim, the most powerful person in the mainland, suddenly burst open like a rotten watermelon and turned into a puddle of flesh and blood. Until his death, Tim could not believe that one of his dignified 9th-level Holy Spirit Masters would die in the hands of Jason and Lan Yugusin, 2 junior Imperial Spirit Masters. Who is Jason? How could he not know what Elder Tim is thinking? Naturally, he would not listen to what Elder Tim said. Besides, even if what Elder Tim said was true, Jason would not accept such flattery. Villain. Looking at Elder Tim's body with disgust, Jason immediately took off the space ring from Elder Tim's body. Deputy Tower Master Gates, Elder Sampfield, I, Jason, will definitely avenge you, and this Tim is the first one. Jason murmured, and then took the gift from Tim from Blue Moon Gusen. The detector captured by Elder Huzhong. The two of them immediately took off, and according to the instructions on the detector, they searched for the disciples who had entered the forbidden area together. And on the other side of the forbidden area. Boom! A huge palm fell from the sky, with endless majesty, directly hitting a young man with short blonde hair. This young man with short blonde hair is none other than Heath Ledger, the 8th-level Intermediate Imperial Spiritual Master who ranks 9th on the elixir list. Facing the opponent's powerful attack, Heath Ledger's blue pupils were full of fear, and his whole figure seemed to turn into a mass of invisible wind. He wanted to escape from the area, but Heath Ledger was shocked. Unfortunately, under the opponent's bombardment, the entire world was imprisoned. No matter how hard he tried, he could not escape from this area. He could only watch the opponent's giant palm containing powerful spiritual laws. Swing down hard. Boom! The giant palm with a terrifying aura was like swatting a fly, slapping directly on Heath Ledger. The entire void was like a lake disturbed by stones, with ripples rippling out, and Heath Ledger was under these ripples. His eyes widened in horror, and he was immediately slapped into powder. 3rd noon. In the sky not far away, a man who looked like an iron tower said indifferently, then looked at the detector in his hand, and then flew up again, heading towards the depths of the Forbidden Land. Scenes like this happen in every corner of the Forbidden Area. After all, there are too few geniuses like Jason and Lan Yugusin who can withstand the 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master with their own strength alone. The vast majority of geniuses, even the 8th-level high-level or even the peak Emperor Spirit Master, was found by the 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master-level hunters sent by Ling Falcon Tower. Even escaping was a luxury, and he could only be killed one by one with his head in a different place. Under such circumstances, Jason and Lan Yuigusen left the unique marks of the Medicine Master Tower on the trees and rocks they passed along the way while searching for the disciples who entered the Forbidden Area. But the entire Forbidden Area is so big that even with detectors, it would be difficult for Jason and Lan Yuigusen to find anyone. After a long search, the detector in Jason's hand suddenly started beating violently. Well, there's someone in front of us. Jason and Lan Yuigusen were excited and rushed forward quickly. After flying past for a moment, waves of faint spiritual power fluctuations and subtle roaring sounds suddenly came from far ahead in the direction pointed by the detector. Someone is fighting. Jason and Lan Yu Gusen looked at each other, a gleam of light flashed in their eyes, and then without any hesitation, the two of them instantly turned into two streams of light and flew towards the place where the battle was coming. The place to come. In the sky hundreds of miles away from Jason and Blue Moon Gusen. Endless spiritual energy boiled and a terrifying aura spread. It was clear that a war was taking place. Boom. 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 A man with long meat-colored hair. The young man with blue eyes, covered in blood, was brandishing a huge ice sword and slashing at the man in black robes in front of him. The overwhelming ice spiritual power dissipated. This huge ice sword was composed of pure elements and was extremely powerful. Wherever it passed, the void continued to shatter, but the man in black robe was completely fearless. A pair of dark palms and that the blue ice swords kept hitting each other, making clanging sounds. Under the attack of the black-robed man, cracks appeared on the ice sword in a moment, and then exploded, turning into ice and snow that fell into the sky. Jia, Casper, you are worthy of being the first holy son of the Salem Empire. Under my ghostly energy, you were able to persist for so long, and you also mastered the unique divine ice power of your Gyura's family. However, it is a pity that no matter how hard you struggle today, you can never escape from my hand in front of me, Campbell. The man in black robe had a cold face and sneered in his mouth. The black aura that filled his body suddenly exploded in his body. A terrifying force came out, a palm like a withered claw, surrounded by black mist, aimed directly at Caswall and grabbed hard.